This episode is sponsored by Mount Athos, results, purity, and sustainability in every bottle.
Russia. It is a country bigger than 3 continents, and it is a dark place, or so it seems to be. It seems to me so unknown. A fairy tale place stuck in a different time and world where immeasurable wildernesses are interrupted by the odd settlement. And those settlements could range from a few ramshackle houses to forgotten brutalist concrete ruins, from a checkered past and even up to colorful castles that inspire the mind. It's a dream world. An ocean of unknowns painted green and brown and gray. It is a rope tugged between the 2 poles of Europe and Asia, the Great West and the greatest of the East. And the strain of this tug of war has left its marks on the land. A tossing here and there between pagan history and Christian settlement and godless communist uprisings has beaten the country to a pulp time and time again, leaving it bloodied in the face and bleeding out from the vitals. Yet it remains. It lingers on, sometimes confusedly, dancing its dance of orthodoxy and dealing still with the rampant sin that few have been immune to in this modern age. Even its modernity shows signs of its incompleteness, for that is what Russia really feels like, incomplete somehow. The metropolitan titans of Moscow and St. Petersburg shine with lights as bright as any major center of modern human development in our day. But bright as they may be, they cannot cover up the shadow over the bulk of the land. Again, it's like a fairy world, caught between what modern man wants to pigeonhole it into and what it actually is, what it perhaps used to be. And despite the body of glorious work it really can point to in the past, its courageous stands against the onset of Islam, its conquering of the Mongol hordes by the Christian Tsar, its tragic fight to the death in the First Great War to end all wars. The thing it is perhaps most known for is a thing entirely separate from it, its time as the same land that bore the name of Soviet Union. The scars of the Iron Curtain remain today, both in its infrastructure and its lineages of people. How far back did Lenin and Stalin and the Bolsheviks set those Riffian countrymen? Well, who can say? But it must certainly be a long way. It was, in this way, a library of Alexandria writ large, burning in the fires of a communist Rome, losing uncounted volumes of tradition and knowledge and wealth and ethos with each passing minute. That time of mystery, of debauchery, of death, and of intrigue is perhaps what fuels so much natural speculation about what sorts of things could be lurking in that place that we haven't seen before. But it isn't just that. There's something in Russia's deep past that paints it all fuzzy as well. In southern Siberia, tucked tightly into a limestone cave, scientists found a fragment of bone in 2008. They took it for study, thinking it may be the remains of some very early human survivors in the region. But what they found struck them dumb. Closer inspection made them wonder whether or not the bone fragment was human at all. The DNA tests were all over the place, leading them to believe the finger belonged to a young female who was more related to Neanderthals than modern man, but who was nonetheless not a Neanderthal. Eventually, this subspecies of man, for that is what the materialist scientists called them, took on the colloquial name, the Denisovans, after the cave in which they were first found. A race of humans or humanoids from the deepest stretches of time that could be imagined. And my disagreements with the evolutionary narrative and timeline aside, it is a fascinating find. Some other ancient cultures talk about a people who some think to be the old Denisovans, sages from the far north who bring knowledge and technology to the budding man in the Fertile Crescent, giants and demigods of great power and lore. But of course, this is probably an overblown thing among the Graham Hancocks of the world. I would place very little stock in it, and think it relies too much on a deep time view of history that I flatly reject. However, it can't be denied that it is fascinating. Perhaps it betrays a longing in the collective subconscious of man to make sense of all the strangeness that comes to us from the Badlands of Russia. Because my goodness, there is a great deal of strangeness there. In 1953, Veniamin Dodin was wasting away, in exile in the rugged lands of southern Siberia. In his past life, he had been a prominent Soviet scientist and lecturer whose contributions to the defense sector and the college education of the USSR's youth could not be overstated. In 20 years, he had authored 26 books on a wide range of engineering-adjacent topics while teaching military engineers. But in 1940, that life came to a violent end. He somehow ran afoul of the government. The reasons for this falling out are unclear. Perhaps he discovered something he didn't like and threatened treason. Perhaps he said the wrong thing to the wrong person in the wrong tone with no ill intent at all. Whatever it was, Dodin learned firsthand of the knife's edge everyone walks along at all times under a totalitarian communist regime. For 12 years, he drifted from gulag to gulag and prison to prison. He was put to harsh labor in even harsher elements and watched other prisoners he had come to love as comrades die under the iron rod of evil that was a constant black cloud above their country. Finally, he was placed in exile, in a small hut next to a river called Ishimba, which was in a place whose precise location is difficult to determine from reports. It was either in the backwoods to the neighboring city of the modern-day Zeleznahorsk, or it was in a defunct and abandoned territory to the north and west of Kirovskil. For my money, I'm going with the latter solely for the reason that it is a blurred out spot on Google Earth and therefore must have something to hide. At any rate, Dodin began living out his days in lonesome solitude in his hut on the banks of the small river, too valuable to kill, too risky to keep near anyone else. And over a short course of time, the man started to settle into his new life. He learned to embrace the quiet, and he learned to find fulfilling enough company in himself and the animals that frequently came near to his home. He foraged and hunted. He cut wood and stoked a constant fire. He fished in the Ishimba and explored the forest. But he never got too close to the only settlement that was close to him, a place forgotten to time called Oymoylan. It is said in this place the Soviets would carry out unrecorded experimental weapons testing. Dodin did not know for sure whether those rumors were true, at least not at first. But he did think it strange that his overlords would let him live so close to a place with such a reputation. Yet, he contented himself with exile and did not seek to thwart whatever it was the regime was or was not doing in Oymoylan. He had made peace with his life, but the objective truth was that it was no life at all. A part of him still knew that, and it ate at his mind like a virus. On a June evening, Dodin walked on the shores of his river towards the alcove in the trees that contained his hut. The humidity of the day had given way to an almost crisp breeze as the last traces of the sun sank below the western inferno of trees. That same breeze, a torrent higher up in the heavens, had chased away all the clouds, and faint pricks of twinkling light could already be seen dancing beside the moon in the royal blue sky. Night was coming on fast, but it was not there yet. Dodin climbed a small hill which he knew would allow him to look over the river and trees for miles on the opposite bank. It was a small bald meadow of shin-high grass and wildflowers, and scattered granite boulders from some disaster of yore. Often he would see deer there, but not on that night. While he climbed, he began to experience a ringing sensation in his ears. He was not hearing the ringing per se, rather, he was experiencing it inside of himself. He figured it for a change in his hearing that is always accompanied by a whine of recalibration from the brain, only it didn't stop. The ringing grew in volume as he summited the knoll, and he soon discovered what he thought to be the source. But just what the source was, he couldn't actually say. I know, it's confusing. Above the trees over the river, a line of sight blocked by the sloping hill until moments before, there was a massive cylinder floating in the sky. It sang out with a hum that sat deep beneath the high-pitched whine he could still feel inside of his head. In that first moment of seeing the strange thing, he also realized that nothing else was making noise in the forest of his prison. No bugs, no nesting birds or night owls, no rustling rabbits or squirrels. His world was eerily devoid of any noise besides the humming and the ringing. He turned his focus back to the unprecedented thing he spotted in the sky. The tubular body was turning quickly about itself. On its outside, it was entirely blank. Not a seam could be seen on the massive thing, save a sort of perforated ring around its perimeter near what Doden assumed to be its aft side. In the growing darkness, it seemed to him to glow somehow in a dull, dim light that pulsated with the body's own rotation. As his eyes adjusted to the oddity, he found that he could suddenly see inside of that aft end, the end closest to him, as if it was hollowed out and like a limbless tree that was opened at one side. Now caught as if in a trance and unable to look anywhere else, Doden watched as the craft moved towards him. In the right mind he had remaining, he assured himself that what he was seeing was a test flight from some top-secret aircraft being developed at Oimoilon. But he couldn't shake the worry that it was perhaps more than that, or, if it was that it was no mere test flight, and that it carried a payload meant for his ultimate destruction. But any doom he waited for never came. Instead, what happened next was entirely unpredictable. A solid disc, a few meters thick but nearly as wide in diameter as the main cylinder, slid out from the open end that faced Doden. It spun and hovered near the craft as it reoriented itself to be perpendicular to the UFO, such that its two faces were pointed, one towards the sky and one towards the earth. Then, it rocketed into the heavens and vanished entirely out of sight in an instant. Doden had never conceived of such motion before. He watched on, the noise in his head growing rougher and harder to endure. More discs exited the cylinder and flew up quickly, as did the first. Then, unceremoniously, the opened end of the object closed, and the massive thing flew away into the night until it too vanished, but much more slowly. As Doden snapped out of his stupor, he began to hear the sound of animals again. The familiar noise of the breeze brushing reeds and grasses against one another were like white noise to his now immense fatigue. Suddenly, he felt his back grow warm, and he watched his shadow stretch out before him towards the west. He turned quickly to find that the sun was rising far away behind him. He had stood there watching this thing, an event he thought was only mere minutes, for the entire night. He walked the short distance to his hut down the hill, too tired to think of what he had witnessed. When he arrived inside, he threw himself automatically down on his cot and slept in a dreamless sleep until the long summer day had gone deep into the afternoon. When he woke, he didn't have any conclusions. Indeed, he had few coherent thoughts about the matter at all. But he did have an irresistible urge to return to that hill again, to watch and wait should the strange craft come back. And it did. For many nights in a row, Doden observed and documented the object with the vanishing discs that exited it. He took photographs, a thing that was perhaps the bravest thing Doden ever did in his life given the circumstances, and estimated the size and propulsion methods and purpose of whatever it was he was looking at. But these were mere guesses, and uneducated ones at that. Doden knew nothing man-made could move the way that this thing did, this zeppelin from another world. As the encounters piled up, the discs that exited the craft began to diminish in size until they poured out at a size of what Doden thought was 80 feet in diameter, compared to the much larger cylinder that he figured for over 650 feet in diameter. As his nerve grew and he shook the trance that tempted him to hold still any time he saw the object, he started trying to approach it closer. These attempts failed, however. Each time Doden began to descend the hill towards the thing, he became violently ill and suffered sharp pains in every single joint on his body. The thing had defenses, or some offensive, malicious wish to oppress him each time he came within range. One or the other, or both, must have been true. And then one day, the encounter stopped. Life went on for Doden, back to the solitary monotony of exile in a forsaken land. Until about a month after all of these things took place, KGB officers arrived at Doden's door to rudely wake him one morning. Hearing the voices made him sure they had come to kill him, but they had not. They questioned him extensively about the things he had seen. He saw no compelling reason to lie, as death was nearly welcome to him at that point. And they took his camera from him and smashed it into some rocks outside before ripping up the film into tatters. Of course, This caused Dodin to conclude that he had seen some very secret military operation or test taking place. He assumed his life was spared out of goodwill or out of some remaining respect for the work that he had once done. Later, however, he was proven wrong. Later on, a man named Shevelyov discovered the truth. Deep inside the records of the unrecorded site near Oymoylan that he had uncovered during the chaos of the toppling regime, he found reports of the very same events Dodin had written down in his journals. The reports, far from clearing the air, added instead to the dread of it all. The military had seen the craft and its disk children as well. They had feared them. They had experienced radio jamming and electromagnetic anomalies under the object's onset. They had even ordered the full evacuation of all personnel in the area, all except Dodin, of course. At one point, it was said they even tried to engage with the object to defend themselves. 2 fighter jets fired missiles directly upon it, only to have the missiles turn course directly down to the earth at the final moments before impact. To this day, nobody knows what was seen over the trees of Siberia on those summer nights in 1953.
Kamchatka is one of the furthest places east in the world. It is a forgotten peninsula pushing into the Pacific off the northern tip of Russia, with a massive bulk of sea between it and the mainland. It itself is a massive thing as well, covering an area of almost 180,000 square miles and containing on its surface an incredibly diverse collection of geography, flora, and fauna. One section of it, for example, is a string of dormant volcanoes that lie in its southern portion and eastern coast. It is as close to a real-life Mordor as one could possibly imagine, with enormous peaks soaring up from sea level to nearly 12,000 feet, and then almost going completely back down to sea level in the valleys between. 16 such volcanoes overpower this landscape lost to memory, sending out their geysers like capillaries into the area surrounding them. A root system of hellish power, veiled by a place frozen over completely for much of the year. In the very center of this ring of fire, there lies a lake named Konotskoye, whose outlet stabs between 2 mountains and flows directly into the Pacific Ocean, a Kalakiria if ever there was one in the elder days of our Middle Earth. And this lake is the eye of a nature preserve that envelops the mountains around it and even the valley of geysers cloaking their perimeters. It's one of the most untouched places in the world by man, but even here, traces of a forgotten past can be seen in the form of old radio towers and sheds no longer used and derelict after too many winters. For that, and for its apparent absence from man's entire history, it feels like a different planet entirely. It is cold in the waters of Kronotskoye. Even at the height of summer, they never get over about 60 degrees Fahrenheit. In the winters, the entire surface freezes to a depth of over a yard thick. Solid ice over a living place, giving only the appearance of death. Given the history of the place, or lack thereof, and its protected nature preserve status, it primarily serves as a massive laboratory for geologists and biologists of various disciplines. These scientists come expecting little action outside of whatever niche specialty excites them, do their business as they receive funding from larger universities and government ministries, and then leave the place much how they found it, entirely on its own. The illusion of nature's sole rule here dominated their romantic opinion of the peninsula for centuries. That was until the year 1970. In that year, a small group of hydrologists, 4 to be exact, were performing tests in Lake Kronotskoye under the banner of their sponsor, the Leningrad Hydrometeorological Institute. 3 of these investigators were still graduate-level students at the school, one of whom was named Valentin. The other 2 students have not been named in the records. The 4th member of the party and its leader was a recent graduate named Argokov. Given their desire for actual liquid to work with, they were there in the middle of August, marveling at the sharp technicolor contrasts of deep blue, dreamlike green, and rugged black mountains with pure white on top around them. Near the end of their trip, the team of 4 entered the same motorboat together on an especially pleasant day. The research had gone well, while not exciting, and the nerves they all had in the early stages of the expedition had long since vanished, being replaced by quiet confidence in their competence as researchers and an eagerness to show off their findings when they arrived back at school some days later. All that remained was to enjoy the final stretch of the trip and collect the final bits of data needed to round out the research and make the most of their funding, but not too much. After all, if they ever wanted to return to the crystalline waters of Kronotskoye, they'd have to prove only enough to prove that more work needed to be done, and of course by them. And so they padded along on top of the water to the tune of an old outboard. The breeze was at their backs, creating little ripples of chop in the water, but it was by no means a rough day. The 4 students, the 4 friends, laughed and talked and held their noses a bit high at the thought of the exclusivity of the group ever to have seen this place, let alone drive a boat across its surface. But with a sudden start, the mood changed. The wind seemed to still and stop in a single moment, forcing them to notice the silence all around them. It made the little engine after them sound like a diesel train, letting the world and any watching spirits know where they were, as if, strangely, they weren't allowed there. The student closest to it shut the engine down. The boat lunged forward and dipped its nose before bobbing up to right itself. No sound at all. Even the rumble of the geysers in the adjacent valley had gone still. No birds sang on their way to the sea, no echoes of waves lapping on the shore behind them. Then, as if summoned by the stillness, the group watched from their boat, which felt so insecure to them now, as a great silver dome of water began to rise up about a half-mile away from them. It bulged up slowly, a bone spur on the heel of the world, until it became its own detachment from the world, a pearlish and silvery oval thing. It was, they reckoned, at least 150 feet in diameter at its thick middle. Something about it, something that transcended the pure surprise of it, terrified the researchers. The curiosity of the sudden quiet had been replaced with the nauseating weight of pure dread. The thing continued to slowly rise, hovering and humming, but with a sound that one felt more than heard. The man in the back ripped hard on the motor's cable and snagged the reverse gear, slamming it home with a twist of his wrist. But as the boat started to back away at what they all felt to be far too slow a speed, the object started to crawl from hundreds of feet in the air towards them. As it did, the boat's motor stalled. The students, nearly paralyzed with fear, but not quite, each grabbed an oar stashed on the bottom and began to frantically row. For another moment, the surreal object continued to pursue them, but then it abruptly stopped, and in the very same moment, started moving the other way, out towards the desert of the Pacific, and then on to the Bering Sea. After about a minute and a half of them rowing and watching the thing slowly hover away from them, it shot as if from a gun towards the north and east and disappeared from view all in an instant. A second after it was gone into the void of the sky, the boat's motor spontaneously started again, still in reverse gear somehow, and took the children back to shore. The shore which now made sound again as it fought the waves. The following year, according to later reports and affidavits from Agnarkov, 2 of the team members died under strange circumstances. Their causes of death were never determined.
Mount Athos Performance is a family-owned fitness brand that gives you the tools you need to cultivate a lifestyle of health and fitness. Bro, you know I'm doing an ad right now, right?
Oh, yeah. No, you're doing great, man. Keep it up. Keep it up.
But can you stop shaking the bottle just for a minute?
Oh, wait. You want me to stop shaking my Mount Athos Performance shaker bottle filled with Mount Athos Performance protein?
Yes, that would be great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Well, as I was saying, Mount Athos sources their goat whey from their family-owned farm so they can create a product that's not full of crazy chemicals or additives.
Oh, yeah, dude. You can tell this is the good stuff. I'm drinking this goat so that I can get goated. Oh, yeah.
Well, they have products like protein powder, creatine, supplements for your mind. There should be one for sleep somewhere. Head to athosperform.com and use code NCP20 for 20% off your order today.
Well, those were pretty cool stories. Russia, am I right? Always providing some weirdness.
Russia, if you're looking for strangeness, Russia will do you a solid.
We got Lake Baikal. We got Oimoyalon. We got Dodin. We got that last one.
We got flipping USOs coming in.
Hey, I was looking on Google Earth. Seriously, that island or peninsula, I can't remember the name of it now. Even though you just said it over and over again.
It's Russian sounding, so that's all you need to know.
Kamchatka.
Let's call it Putin.
Putin.
I don't know why I said it like an Italian guy.
Yeah. Putin Peninsula.
It's a Putin Peninsula. Go ahead.
Putin Peninsula, which is not the name. Google Earth, it is so cool because it's seriously like this really green land because Google Earth doesn't show it with all the snow it normally has.
Yeah.
And just peppered with random volcanoes. It's not like a continuous range.
Yeah, it looks
really cool. It looks like Mordor.
Fake. Yeah, that's when you said that it looked like Mordor, I was like, oh, I can picture this.
Yeah,
place.
It totally looks
it's
like
like
Mordor.
Ringed around.
Yeah, very Kalkirian.
Even what's the lake is it Nurnen? Lake Nurnen
I don't
in
remember.
Mordor?
Oh, yes. Which is how he supplied his
that's
his
how they
orcs
grow
with
their
water.
crops. They think like orcs need food too.
This is the crazy thing, man. Look at the economy of Middle Earth, and especially Mordor. Like, what is Sauron's agricultural method? You know what I mean?
Here's what people often miss is that if you count the movies as canon, then the orcs had a concept of a restaurant. Because he said, looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
That's true,
How
actually.
do orcs not, can you pick, the orcs go to they're like, dude, let's go to Fazoli's.
Yeah.
Let's
You know
get
what
those free breadsticks.
I'll tell you what, though. You know what I love about the books is that Tolkien does a really good job of dehumanizing the orcs to the max.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but then there's one conversation where they're standing over Frodo's body outside of Shelob's lair,
yep.
and he's like, "I think I'm gonna take my wife on vacation."
Basically, like more or less.
You're like, wait a
Like
second,
totally
here.
humanizes them.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they all kill each other.
It's because they're Muslims.
They
Clearly, he meant them to be Muslims.
I mean, this isn't
This isn't secret.
Calorman.
But this isn't a secret.
Where C.S. Lewis is like, if they don't understand that the Calormans are Muslims, I will kill myself.
There's two things I want readers to get. The lion is Jesus, the Calormans are Muslims.
And the Muslims are stupid. Like, that's pretty much Lewis's view in a nutshell.
Anyway.
What
do you think about that first story about the cigar-shaped UFO and the discs flying out of it? My guy Dodin.
I have several like favorite elements of a high strangeness story.
Yeah.
One are USOs, legitimately.
Yes.
So
because they're rare.
They're very rare. It's like a rare Charizard, but which I don't even play.
Never
know
played
how that
Pokemon.
works. But the other is missing time.
Yes.
Dude, missing
That's mine
time
too.
stories. There was a missing time story I heard. It was crazy. Emergency story mode. It was this lady was in college and she was going to do a job interview.
Yeah.
And she lived in California and she was driving like an hour and a half from her university to get to this. It was a very important job interview. Mm-hmm. Big opportunity for her. It was like in the film and editing world. So she had it was a big shot guy that was going to interview her and like give her a shot. She doesn't own a car because she lived in the dorms, went to college. So she enlisted her friend who was another student, and they both worked at the student newspaper. So they both were good friends, worked together all the time. And he's like, yeah, sure. I can get off class early. I'll drive you up, hang out. It'll be fun. Come back. No big deal. So they get ready. They leave, make sure going to be on time. Really important. LA, the traffic is crazy in California. So they go, and on the way there, they, just normal drive. Everything's completely to them normal, with one exception, and I'll circle back to it. But they get there to this guy's mansion where he's going to interview this lady. First
Hey,
of all, Hollywood,
young ladies,
don't ever do this.
If you ever get an interview invite to one guy's mansion,
yeah, like
kindly reject the interview offer.
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Or his offices. I think it was his actual mansion, but it could have been his offices, whatever. So she gets out.
Was his name Jeffrey Epstein? Or Harvey Weinstein?
It could have been either of those. So she gets out of the car, walks up to the place. Guy's not even there.
Yeah.
And she's like, I drove an hour and a half, to get here.
Yeah, what the heck?
And the secretary is like, no, he just left. Like, he waited for you for over an hour. And he was kind of miffed that you would blow him off like this. And she was like, what do you mean? What time is it? And she's like, it's 6:30 or it's like 6:15 or something. Her interview was at like 4 o'clock.
Must have been a summer day. A lot of daylight.
So
I don't know why I'm suddenly being a skeptic. I believe it to the bottom.
she's like mystified, completely mystified. Goes out, scratch her head. She's like, what happened? Goes out to the car. She's been gone for like a minute. And the guy's like, what are you doing back already? Like, this is crazy. He's like, we're an hour and a half late. We're an hour late. We're 2 hours late, something like that.
That's insane.
And the guy left. And he's like, what do you mean? Did you get the time wrong? She's like, no, I got the time right. Do you know what time it is right now? And he's like, it's like 4:15, 4 o'clock, whatever it was. And she's like, no, it's 6 o'clock. They confirm it. Like, look at every go check other places.
Yeah.
Anyway, they drive back to the dorm and they're talking the whole way, like, how in the heck, what happened? How did this happen? And she's like, did anything weird happen? Like, was there a bunch of traffic and we lost track of time? And he was like, no, it was a normal drive. We left at the time of day when nothing strange happened. He's like, the only weird thing was that there was that car, that VW bus on the side of the road, but that couldn't have slowed us down. And she was like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, there was the VW bus. It had flipped over, gotten in a wreck. It was on fire. And she was like, I didn't see that.
What?
Okay, so they get back. Everybody in the office confirms. In the newspaper office, all their friends confirm you left at this time.
Yeah.
Multiple witnesses. You should not have been late. Nothing happened. And so this is their theory. Okay, this is the theory. They're like, we got abducted by aliens. First of all, see our published work.
Yeah.
The demons. And they inserted that for him, this really like sharp memory as like a cut point that would distract him from the insertion and exfiltration.
Right.
And she didn't notice it. Like, nice, they did it wrong, or only he got that part of the code in the brain dump.
Yeah.
And so, they, to this day, they have no idea. This is a true story. I heard the person who experienced this, both the woman and the man.
Dude, that's nuts.
The man who drove her, I'm pretty sure, is the guy who wrote the script for Mothman Prophecies.
Are you serious? Mm-hmm. He's a famous guy.
Yeah. It was on Astonishing Legends. They told this story because they were friends. One of the Astonishing Legends guys, Forrest, he also worked at this newspaper, went to the same college at the same time. So they kind of vaguely knew each other. They weren't good friends, but he knew the friend group, and that's how they connected later over the Mothman script. And they were like, no, do you remember this crazy story?
Dude, that's nuts.
It's a crazy story.
You want to know what?
Missing time stories are like so intriguing.
They blow my mind. Part of why they blow my mind. So sure, you could do like the demon abduction thing. And I'm, some of it, I'm sure that's what it is. But it does make one wonder, like, is there a way to slip in time? Now,
see our published works.
My favorite, which we like didn't answer the question.
We were like, we
just asked it over and over again. My favorite time slippage story, maybe not my favorite, but the most well-renowned is Betty and Barney Hill. Their alien abduction. You remember that?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a teaser. Maybe we should do that sometime.
We should definitely do it.
If not for a Dusty Tome, then for a main show.
Yeah, we could do more of these kind of stories, because there's another half dozen of them that I know that are pretty, like, you get the creepypasta ones.
Yeah.
The ones that are pretty well provenanced they're out there.
Dude, there was
pretty
one
compelling.
There was one that I saw on Reddit, so it must be true. It was kind of similar. They were like driving around and stuff, but it was this lady, and this wasn't time slippage. It was like alternate timeline kind of thing. This lady was driving alone at night. Maybe it was a guy, I don't know. Alone late at night. He was pretty much all by himself on the highway, and it was in a rural part of town.
Yeah.
He drives past a brand spanking new gas station. That is a 24-hour gas station. So it's like, no one's there, but it's very well lit. He can see that the manager is inside. Like, it's dark enough to see through the window, and the counter's right at the front. So he sees that someone's in there. He sees that like all the pumps are working and whatever. He doesn't stop to get gas though. He keeps going. Later, he's driving around that same route, and it's like days later.
Yeah.
Middle of the day, other cars, other people, and there is no gas station at that same spot, and the ground is untouched, like it's pasture land. Yeah, crazy stuff.
That's super creepy.
Yeah.
I have more stories that come to mind, but
I know, me too, but we should stop.
with the first story, the time slip part's crazy, but the military engaged. Like, this is another theme that you see with these stories, even up to the carrier, the naval pilot recently that tracked the Tic Tac object. Yeah. Like, they'll get them on radar, they'll get them on FLIR, the forward-looking infrared. They'll get them on all this stuff, and then
they'll get them on radar. Okay,
and then they'll lose them. I said radar, didn't I?
Dr. Travis
Did
Taylor.
I say
no,
radar?
They get them on radar.
They get them on that radar, and then Thomas Winterton and I will go up to the Mesa, and then we lose them.
The UFO.
We get the UFO.
Oh, man. Yeah.
No, but it's those are the crazy ones to me, because we spend trillions of dollars in defense stuff and in ways that we don't even know about with skunk works and whatnot. And yet some of these, it makes me think that, again, it's like a non-physical.
And it does, the guys that come forward, the whistleblowers, if you want to call them that come forward and say, oh no, our government is in contact with extraterrestrial entities, demons, and they're trying to reproduce their technology. Mm-hmm. It does make you go, well, yeah, I could see why someone would say that. I personally am like, sure, why? Yeah. Of course, I think that a terribly corrupt government is in contact with demons.
Yeah.
And so why would there not be some kind of technological give and take?
Yeah.
Very fascinating stuff. Well, hey, before we close,
before we go USO and get out of here.
Yeah, we did want to just quickly plug the upcoming New Christendom Press conference, Safety
June.
Third, Recovering the American Will to Greatness. I believe I'm getting that subtitle right. Is that right?
That's right.
Board member of New Christendom Press. You're going to want to come, and for one reason and one reason only. There's going to be a massive New Christendom Press games.
Okay, that's not
that you can qualify for and compete in
to prove that you're stronger. But that's
for glory.
It's the Haunted Cosmos we're supposed to.
We're doing a live show?
Well, we're going to do a combo of the New Christendom Press games. There's a qualifier where you like go through this this exercise and if you're in the top 30, then you're going to get into the competition.
You get a chance to compete, and the big thing is that you have to lift Brian's mom.
Dang it, he stole my joke. I was leading up to it. I was perfectly sober, wasn't going to give it away. I was going to say, now I'm going to do the joke anyway, because Ben tried to steal it.
Oh, he's just copying
that what we're going to do to try to one-up the games, which is attempting to steal our thunder, is that during the conference, we're going to be putting on a live episode of Haunted Cosmos with live sound design, live music.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be so much. We did it last year. We're going to do it even better this year.
Yep.
And that's the reason people are flooding Ogden, Utah from all over the world, the galaxy.
It's for the live Haunted Cosmos.
But at the end of it, to one-up the games that are trying to steal our thunder, I am going to be deadlifting Ben's mom.
Brian and I have tossed around the idea of doing some kind of physical challenge on stage
as a joke,
because we're not going to be winners of the New Christendom Press.
We're not going to win. I'm hoping to make it into the 30, and I did the qualifying workout for the first time yesterday. I don't even know if I'd have time.
That'd be a king move, dude. To make it and
I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I did the workout. I did better than I expected to.
No, you did really good.
But it was I'm in pain right now.
Yeah.
And I have exercise-induced asthma. So if I do anything very cardiovascular, then I cough and get swollen airways for hours.
I have exercise-induced asthma.
Thank you, Ben, for mocking my suffering.
I'm pretty sure Brian would.
If I lifted Ben's mom, I would be coughing for hours. Okay?
I'm pretty sure Brian did better in the qualifier than I could given a month of prep. So,
I don't know, dude. So it was tough.
I kid.
My back is my lats.
Dude, that man house. Hey, this man house over here did really, really good.
NewChristendomPress.com/2025. Link in the description. That's where you can go to get tickets to the conference. Come hang out with us in Ogden. It's going to be a great time. Whole family's welcome. It's a family deal.
Family event.
Men, women, and children.
We have great family deals.
Oh, yeah.
We have great deals for kids. And I don't mean just little tiny kids, even up to a good age where they're quite big. Think about coming. It's going to be an awesome time. You're going to get to meet and hang out with Brian and I regularly.
We'll be signing books and doing all sorts of stuff.
And signing babies,
I sign any baby I see without asking.
I sign it and then I baptize it.
Wow.
Yep.
Hide your kids.
Yeah, but not like that.
From being baptized by Ben.
If you're a Baptist,
Anyway,
you are in
by
danger.
being unauthorizedly baptized.
Yes.
Okay, last thing, speaking of baptism.
Mount Athos Performance is a family-owned fitness brand that gives you the tools you need to cultivate a lifestyle of health and fitness. Bro, you know I'm doing an ad right now, right?
Oh, yeah. No, you're doing great, man. Keep it up. Keep it up.
But can you stop shaking the bottle just for a minute?
Oh, wait. You want me to stop shaking my Mount Athos Performance Shaker bottle filled with Mount Athos Performance Protein?
Yes, that would be great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Well, as I was saying, Mount Athos sources their goat whey from their family-owned farm so they can create a product that's not full of crazy chemicals or additives.
Oh, yeah, dude. You can tell this is the good stuff. I'm drinking this goat so that I can get goated. Oh, yeah.
Well, they have products like protein powder, creatine, supplements for your mind. There should be one for sleep somewhere. Head to athosperform.com and use code NCP20 for 20% off your order today.
USOs, why are they so compelling to me?
Dude,
I don't know.
so there's a big theory going around. I think Travis Taylor was the first one I heard this from.
Dr. Travis Taylor?
With Thomas Winterton and I. And he said that he thinks all UFOs are USOs.
Interesting.
So it's like they can do both. And in fact, there's massive civilizations of demons in the sea that then at times travel out of the sea.
You're hearing this for the first time here on Haunted Cosmos, off season.
And so I don't believe that, but it's an idea.
Hey, don't believe that's true.
And at the end of the day, USOs
what
are
if it
interesting.
was?
Part of why USOs are cool, by the way, is because the stories of them are more rare.
Yeah, they're like a rare holographic Charizard.
Yeah, and so they're kind of all the same, but they're all really cool.
They are cool. And the thing is, like, the ocean is so mysterious. There's a reason we started this whole show with high strangeness on the high seas.
Do you want to know something?
Lay it on me.
So I've been reading Augustine's Confessions.
As one does.
Yes. And he, at the very end, he does his allegorical interpretation of Genesis 1. Mm-hmm. And he's not like discrediting the historical one. He's just saying, and also this. Mm-hmm. And his whole idea about the sea and like the sea being first is the sea is humanity, which is,
the nations.
prophetically alluded to all through the scriptures. The sea is the nations. And the dry land is the good soul. Mm-hmm. The good soul of man that God raises up and redeems. Mm-hmm. And so it would make sense that sinful humanity as a sea harbors this kind of demonic horde within it.
And that's the shark's house. That's why it's the shark's house.
And so once again, Augustine vindicated.
Augustine, stop winning, challenge level impossible.
Impossible. Massive dubs. Hey,
impossible.
hope you guys enjoyed this off-season Dusty Tome. We're going to stop recording this one and immediately record the next one. So come on back in 2 weeks.
Reminder, if you jump on our Supercast channel, hauntedcosmos.supercast.com, and support the show as a monthly contributor, not only do you get all these Dusty Tomes that we do every single week, they're not all video, but it's like a lore style podcast.
There's over 100 of them.
Over 100 of them you can listen to. But also, we're going to be putting out this whole season upcoming on demand. So from the day the public episode number 1 launches, you're going to be able to stream on demand the entire season.
Yeah, you can binge the whole season.
So check it out.
And it is, seriously, I'm not trying to blow smoke. It's shaping up to be...
I'm so stoked.
Like maybe our best season yet, if not one of them. The episodes that we've recorded already have been so fun. So hope you guys enjoy that. If you like that idea, consider supporting us on Supercast.
Smash that like, smash that subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see you next time.
Yep.